Hello guys, Alan here and welcome to the most authoritative Revit tutorial channel here on YouTube. So if you happen to be watching this video, then you are really serious about studying the Revit software. Trust me guys. So this is part 2 of our rendering series here on YouTube. So we are going to be taking off from wherever we left off in part 1, and I'm going to be explaining some things in this video today. So don't forget, we are still using our Enscape software for our rendering. Alright, so let's turn on that bad boy. Let's light up our Enscape software. Let's turn it on. You can just find it on your ribbon and then you just turn it on. By now I'm guessing you guys have installed your Enscape software. Alright, make sure you definitely have the Enscape software. Trust me guys, you are going to love that software. So let's just wait for it to open up. Let's see what we have. Let's see where we left off in our tutorial in part 1 of our series. Let's see what we left off. Okay, all right, perfect. So we left everything blank, just as the default material on how Revit is going to give us. That's how I think we left it off. Let me just scroll in and then hit my space bar to drop to that human level. Perfect. So let me just check, this is on 2 points, which is also perfect. And let me just move and walk around a little bit in my design. Let me just walk around a little bit. Oof, I just fall off the cliff on that slab. Let me just space bar and then let me just go around the building again. Let me appreciate what I've designed in there. And you guys have the file by now, so you guys can definitely go through or walk through with me as well. So we left off with the same default material, just like Enscape is going to leave us with. So I'm going to bring this down a little bit and then I'm going to pause my live updates. All right, it's quite advisable that you pause your live updates so it doesn't really drain your machine. So your machine is going to be processing a lot if this is on. All right, it means that any changes you are making is also affecting over there, which is also going to drain my machine a lot. So I just want to pause, and then when I'm done and want to check, I can just resume, and then I go and check that out and then come back, pause, and it's just the same procedure just as we see in it. All right, so now I want to just draw a wall. So let me just let me go into my ground. Let me just use the site. All right, let me just use the ground level. Let me use the ground level for this, and then head straight into architecture, get into wall. When I head straight into wall, let me find any wall over there. Let me just find any wall. I can use the generic wall, and then I'm going to duplicate this. Make sure you always duplicate. I'm going to call this for 150 mm exterior wall. I'm going to call this 150 mm exterior wall. I'm going to hit on OK, go into edit type, and then change the thickness right there. I'm going to call this 150, hit on OK, and our wall is set to go. Let me head back in there into modify, and I'll have to draw. Let me just draw this out. Let me draw it out in there this way, and just draw a wall around the building. All right, just make sure you draw a wall around the building in there. Just make sure you just have a wall around the building. That's all. I'm going to bring this out a little bit. Let me bring this also out a little bit. Let me bring this somewhere around here. Okay, let me send it down a little bit in there. This is perfect. So I'm going to hit on tab to select all those walls. Let me see where they are. With the top constraint, I don't want you to go all the way to the ground floor. I'm going to select unconnected, and then I'm going to give it a height of about 4 meters, which is 4,000 millimeters in there. So it's up about over there. Let me see what we have. Okay, so this is perfect. We have a wall at least surrounding our building. Okay, we are good to go. So in today's video, I would want us to deal with our walls. All right, let's just get the material we are going to use for our walls. All right, so when you head straight into Enscape, let's see what they have in their material library. Let's get into their material library. So you need to make sure you are connected to the internet. All right, so you can actually load their materials in there. We can actually use Revit's material library in there, but I think I'm going to use Enscape, because since I'm using Enscape to render, I'm going to use their material library in there. So let me just find so let me just look into the categories tab. Just scroll down there. Let's see what they have. I think I'm going to choose let me search in the plaster. Let me search plaster. Let me see what they have. All right, so we have 11 types of plaster in there. So I'm just going to select any one of them. Let me just select any one of them. I'm going to choose the plaster 04, and then I'm going to import selection. Now make sure you pay attention to the name. Is plaster 04. All right, it's perfect. So now we want to get the material for our wall. All right, and I want the surface of my wall to have some sort of like a graffiato finish. Some of you are going to wonder what a graffiato is. Let me just head straight into Google. Let me head straight into Google in there. Let's search what a graffiato is. Let's see graffiato. Let's see what they have in there, and let's get into our images in there. So you see, this is what we mean by the graffiato. All right, it looks like a paint with some rough kind of finish on the surface. It's very, very beautiful, guys. So I'm going to be using that finish for our tutorial, so you guys can just make sure you just download a sample. All right, we can import that into Revit. It's very, very simple. We can just import that into Revit. So just make sure you download a sample, so you can see this sample right here. You can download. So I have a couple bit of samples downloaded. You can download either this one too as well. You can download this as a sample as well, or maybe you can download this and also this as well. So I have a sample on my machine. I think I downloaded the same way online. I just had to search for graffiato samples in there, and they kind of like gave me some samples which I was able to download. So you can just get a sample and just download it in there. All right, let me just take the samples of graffiato. So you can click on this, and definitely, so we have a couple bit of samples in there. You need to make sure it's the entire thing. All right, you don't have to make sure it's something like this having an image also at the side. You need to make sure it's the entire graffiato sample picture you're having in there. So you can just download that by just right clicking, and then you just save the image. All right, and make sure it's a JPEG file. Make sure it's a JPEG file. It means it's a JPEG file, so it means we are good to go. I'm going to reduce that. I already have some samples on my desktop, so I'm going to head straight into my desktop in there, and I'm going to find all those samples in there. Let me see, where did I save those samples? In my folder. Let me just check that out. All right, you can see in there I have graffiato, so I have a couple bit of samples in there. You can see it in there. I just downloaded those from the internet. All right, so this samples is what I'm going to be using for this design. So I'm going to reduce my wall, and I'm going to use the sample for the wall. Now, one thing you need to know also when you're rendering in Revit, all right, is that with the wall, all right, when you specify a material for the wall, if you are not careful, you are going to specify a material which is also going to appear on the exterior and also going to appear in the interior as well. All right, so I mean that, let's say we use a stone finish for the surface of the exterior part. With the interior part is also going to be a stone finish, which we don't want that. We want the interior part to have a different kind of finish, and also the exterior part to also have a different kind of finish. So what you need to do is, you can either, there are two ways you can actually solve that problem. You can either click on the wall right there, and that reminds me, any wall that is the same type of family as this wall is going to have the same kind of finish. All right, so when we click on this wall right there and we head straight into edit type, we are going to have this pop-up menu. All right, so in the construction tab, we are going to click on edit. When we click on edit in there, this is where all the magic happens. All right, so we have structure in the middle by default. Revit is always going to give you that by default. Always going to put the structure in the middle, except you choose a materialized wall, a wall that has already the materials in there. You can see it in there. Let me just cancel that out of the way. You can see it has some exterior wall, render block, CW, all those walls, except those walls, unless you are using a generic type. So I'm going to go into edit type, and what you need to do, there are two ways. I'm not going to be using this way though, but I'm going to show you guys how you can actually use this as well. So you can just make sure you insert some layers in there. So just insert like 2 layers in there. So we are going to be creating some sort of like a sandwich. All right, we are going to create a sandwich. So if you've ever seen a sandwich before, we have one on top, one bread on top, and then we have another bread at the bottom, and then we have all our salads and all those other stuff in the middle. All right, so that's what we are coming to do here. We are going to create a sandwich of a wall. So with this, we have our structure. So with this, we can either select this and then send this up, and then we are going to select this and then bring this down. All right, so we've created a finish on the exterior part, and then this is going to be eternal, which is going to be the salad part of our sandwich, and then this is going to be the interior part. All right, make sure is divided in between this core boundary layers above. All right, make sure it's divided in between them. So what you need to do here is you need to select this and then send this as finish 2. So with the finish 2 is what is going to appear on the exterior part, and then with the finish 1 is what is going to appear in the interior part. And with the structure, we are going to leave it like that, and we can just give this about 50 mm and then give this also 50 mm, since the total of our wall thickness is 150. And we can use this and then we specialize a material. All right, you can now specify a material. You can specify a material for any of this, so you can click in there and then you make sure you specify a material for the finished part. So I'm going to select the plaster part. I'm going to search for the plaster. So when you come in here, any material that you loaded in from Enscape is going to automatically enter into our Revit software, which is very beautiful. So those high quality Revit materials are going to be in there. So you can see in here I have that material past plaster 4, all right, which we just imported from the Enscape material library. So we have that in there. I'm going to click on that and make sure you always select your use render appearance. All right, it's very, very important. So we're going to click on that as well, and straight ahead we are not going to touch any of this. I'm going to make a video to explain what is happening in here, but we are not going to touch any of this. With the foreground, we can add a pattern to it, which is not relevant in our case. We are rendering, so we are going to go into appearance and let's just wait for Revit to update. So with the reflectivity, I think I'm going to tick that. With the reflectivity and also with the bump, I'm going to tick that, and it's going to ask me to select a bump. So I'm going to make sure I select the material I used. All right, the material I'm going to be using, I'm going to select that material. I'm going to use this as my bump material in there, so it's going to be in there. And with this, I'm going to select an image of how I want that to look like. So I wanted that plaster 4 to look like the exterior part, so I'm going to be dealing with the exterior part in here. So with the image part, I'm going to click on that image part and I'm going to have this pop-up menu, and then I'm going to change the picture right there. I'm going to change that picture. I'm going to look for my graphia tool and I'm going to select, should I take this one? Let me just see which one comes off like a pink color. All right, let me just see which one comes off like a pink color. Let me just change. No, this is kind of like reddish. I don't like that. I don't think I like that one. Okay, I think I prefer this one, the 151C. I think I prefer this one, so I'm going to be using this one, and this is how I want our image to appear. So we are done. We are not going to touch any of those things. Self illumination, we are not going to touch any of that. We are going to hit on apply and then we just hit on OK, and then with our finish 4, which is going to be our interior part of the building. All right, with the interior part, I'm just going to use a plaster. I'm going to use the gypsum wallboard. I'm going to use that gypsum wallboard material. All right, with the appearance, I'm going to head straight into appearance tab in there. Let me just find reflectivity, select that. With the tint, with the bump, I'm not going to add. Okay, it's kind of hard, like some little bump in there. I'm going to leave it just as it is. And the interior part, I think I'm going to leave it just as it is right there. Let me just go online and let me see what they have in there. Let me see if I can get some sort of like a pink color, because I'm actually going to send these renderings to a lady, so I think she really likes the pink color. So I'm going to do, we are going to be rendering in some sort of like a pink color. So you guys shouldn't judge me already. All right, you guys can use any color or any paint you guys want. All right, so I'm going to look for a pink paint surface. Let me just see what they have on the internet. Pink face surface. Okay, so this is what they have. Okay, this one looks a little bit okay for me. Okay guys, I'm going to use this. So desktop, and I'm going to save that in there. Let me head straight into the gypsum wallboard, and let me just duplicate it, make sure I don't use the same thing, and come into image. I'm going to change that, and let me just go into desktop. So this is Revit material library. You can see they have a lot of finishes in there. I'm not going to use any of that. I'm going to head straight into my desktop and find out my pink paint in there. Okay, so hit on apply, hit on OK in there, hit on OK, hit on apply, hit on OK. Alright, so now let's resume our live finish. Let's see what we have in there. Let's get into our Enscape software. Perfect. Let's head into our Enscape software. Let's see what they have. So alright guys, so you guys can see what we have in there. You can see with some parts of our wall having the exterior finish and some part also having the other part of our exterior finish, which we don't want. So you can see it in there. Alright, so we created some sort of like a sandwich. Alright, so we made the other face, which is our finish, to have the graffiato pink color, and then we made the other side of our wall also have that pink finish. Alright, we don't want that, so we are going to reduce that. Pause live updates. I'm going to pause live updates in there, and I'm going to click on the wall, get into edit type, and I'm going to just scrap all of this. I'm not going to use this for what I'm going to be doing. So this is a method you can actually use to achieve that, but I'm not going to use any of this, so I'm going to delete that. I'm going to find the next one and also delete that, and just make this 150. Hit on OK, hit on apply, hit on OK right there, and perfect. So we have those in there as well. So let me head straight. So now our wall is totally going to be blank. Alright, let me show you guys. So resume live updates. Let's head in there. So you can see we are back to square one. We are back to square one wherever we left it. Alright, we are back to where however we left it in there. So you can see no finish on our wall. Alright, oops, I just fall down the cliff. So you can see we have no finish on our wall, so I'm going to reduce that. Pause live updates. I'm going to pause live update. So now I'm going to start rendering in there, and I'm going to start painting my surface. Alright, so Revit has a tool which we call the paint tool. Alright, so we can decide to just paint the surfaces of wherever we want those paints to actually go, which is kind of cool. So I'm going to go into the modify tab, and then this icon right here is our paint tool. Alright, this icon right there. Alright, you can click on the drop down menu. We have remove paint, and then we have paint also in there. So let's say I paint this surface and I don't want that paint to be there anymore. I can just select remove paint, and then it removes that paint from that surface, which is kind of cool. So I'm going to select paint, and then you're going to have this drop down menu. Alright, so now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select, or I'm going to search for the plaster material we made, the plaster 04. So this plaster 04, I'm going to select this. So when you select it, you don't have to hit on the done. Alright, when you hit on done, it means you are done painting. So we are going to select this, and then you start painting. Make sure it feels like, make sure you see that blue hyphenated line selecting that surface, and then you just click right there. So we've painted this surface. We click right here, and then we click right here, we click right here. I'm going to paint here as well, and also paint here, and then also paint there as well. Let me just turn my building. Let me turn my building. Okay, I'm going to paint here, and I'm also going to paint here, and then make sure you just paint all your surfaces. Alright, make sure you paint all your surfaces, because we want that graffiato finish. And we are going to paint here as well. Paint here, paint here. And let me just paint here, also paint here, and then let me paint the surface of this portion as well, and hit on the tab key. You can hit on the tab key to actually select wherever you want it to select. So hit on the tab key, paint there, and paint here as well, paint here, and then paint here. Let me just paint that internal piece. Let me just paint those places as well. So I'm going to paint this place as well, and then also paint here as well, and also paint here, and then also paint here, and also paint here. And then I'm also going to paint the back as well. Paint here, here, and also make sure I paint here as well, and also make sure I paint this part as well. And let me just bring this to the side, and also paint here, and also paint here, paint here. I think we are done. The only way we can tell is if we enter into our Enscape software. So we are going to click on done, and then we are going to head into our Enscape and then resume live updates. So we are going to head straight into our software. Perfect. So you can see we have a whole lot of stuff painted in there, which is perfect for us. So you can see we have our graffiato finish in there. We have that finish in there, our graffiato finish, which is kind of beautiful. You can see we have that surface in there. It looks kind of real, guys. Can't you see, guys? Let me just get out of the view in there. Let me just get out of that view. Yeah, it looks kind of very, very real. All right. So we've painted all those finishes, and we forgot to paint the surface here. So let's just reduce that, and let's get into our modify. Click on our paint tools. Make sure we have selected our plaster, and then we are going to paint here the surface. We are going to hit on done, and let's get into our software. Perfect. So we've painted the front as well. We've painted our front as well. So we have our front also having the graffiato finish, which is kind of perfect. Okay, so we are done. This wall looks like it's kind of like falling off. Let me just go up, up, up in there, and let me just walk on that line right there. Okay, so you're going to just join that right away. I'm going to just join that. Yes, let me just check what's happening at the back. Okay, we forgot to paint this side as well. So we are going to paint that side as well. So let's just go back in a way. Let's just go back. Let's just end it right here. Let me just get back a little bit. Come up, come up, come up, come up. All right, so we are good to go. Now we are going to want to now put in some other stuff in there. So I'm going to reduce this, by the way. I'm going to reduce that and paint this portion. All right, I think we forgot to paint that portion, so we are just going to click on our plaster, and then we make sure we paint that portion as well. It's also painted. Done. I'm sure it's also painted. So Enscape. All right, so now I want us to give our floor finish. All right, let's give this places floor finish. So I'm going to go into the Enscape material library, and let me see what they have in there for me. Let me check what they have for tiles. Let me see what they have for tiles, and it's loading up. I don't know why it takes that long, or is it because of the pause? All right, let me clean that one. Yes. All right, so it's just taking some time to load. We see what they have. Okay, so this is what they have in there. Okay, I think I'm going to use this. I'm going to use this. Yes, I'm going to use the tile 17. So I'm going to click on that and then import that into the software. I'm going to import that and just paint the floor slabs right there. Okay, I don't like the way they finished that. So I'm going to click that and then just import that in there. And I think it's done. So I'm going to close that, and then I'm going to select my paint tool. So I'm going to head into modify, click on my paint tool, and then I'm going to search for my tiles. I'm going to search for my tile 17, click over there, and then I'm just going to select the surface over there, and also select that surface, and then select this surface as well. And I think we also have to paint our staircase. We'll have to do the same thing for our staircase, guys, for each and every step. It's going to be a tedious process. Okay, let me see what we can do, unless we put in the material for that steps or the threads. So let's just click right there. Let me just hit on done and see what we have in there. So let me go up a little bit. What? It didn't finish. Okay, I think I kind of paused the live updates. Enscape, resume live updates. So let me get in there, and perfect. I nearly got a heart attack because I thought it didn't finish that. So we have this floor finish also in there. Let me head down a little bit and see how it looks like. Let me go down there. You can see in there we have that floor finish. This is kind of perfect with our graffiato wall finish also in there. And let me just stand. We are going to be adding some lights in there. We are going to create a light in there. Okay, I think we forgot to also paint this place as well. We forgot to give this portion our graffiato finish. We are going to do that in a time. We are going to be doing that in a bit. So we have to place. Let's just work on our stairs and head to the first floor. Let's see what we have in there. So we have our tile finish in here as well. So you can see we have that tile finish. We also need to work on the interior aspect of our design. So let's just enter in that building. It's not going to enter unless I use the door. All right. So you can see I have a TV on the floor, which is very bad. I think I need to put it on the window. I need to put it on the decks, and then I have some clothes in there. And then that's going to be our bedroom and our dining area also in there. Let me get out of that space. Let me get out of this space quickly. All right, so we are done with this aspect as well. We are done with this aspect. We need to now work on, I think we need to finish also the staircase. Let's just work on the staircase. Let's make sure it has also that same tile finish. All right, let's make sure it has the same tile finish, just as the floor slabs also in there as well. Let's make sure it has that same tile finish. All right, so let me just do that now. Let me click on the stairs and let me see, get into edit type with the construction. Let me get into construction. All right, so with the material and finishes, underside surface smooth monolithic, and with this we are going to search for tiles. Let's just search for tile 17, and we are going to use render appearance. Hit on OK, hit on apply. We've already seen our material, how it looks like, so we are good to go. Let's head into our Enscape. Let's see what they have. Okay, let's go up a little bit. Alright, so that was a simple way for us to be able to actually, so with the underside, I really don't want it to have the tile finish, so I'm going to work on that. With our landing, we need to also give it a finish. Our landing don't have the tile finish, which we need to work on. Alright, okay, so you can see I'm just walking around inside our building right there. I need to give our landing a finish. All right, so let's just click on that landing right there. Let me just click on the landing right there and go into edit type, and we just change that material right there. Let's search for our tile 17, and it's also going to have the same tile 17. Use render appearances check, and definitely it's going to look like that. Hit on apply, hit on OK, and we are good to go. Our landing is also going to have that same finish. All right, you can see it in there. It also has that same kind of finish, so this is perfect. All right, so this is also perfect. Let me just get up a little bit. So now I would want us to paint our exterior wall. That is also going to be a graffiato, but we are going to use the white color. All right, so I'm going to reduce that. I'm going to go into the Enscape material library, and then I'm going to search for the another plaster. Let me just search for, we use the plaster 7, so I'm going to use plaster 1 this time for that exterior part. So we are waiting for it to download into the software. It's imported. We are going to close that out of the way, and we are going to go into modify. First we are going to go into annotate. All right, first, nope, let's just go into manage, and then we are going to hit on our materials icon right there, and then we are going to search for our plaster in there, and let's just see, we have the plaster 1, so it was the plaster 4 we used. So use render appearance is checked, appearance tab. With our bump, we are going to give it our graffiato. We are going to use this white color. We are going to use this color, and with the glossiness, with the image, I don't want it to use that image, so I'm going to click on next, and I'm going to find those graffiatos I used in there, and let me just, all right, let me just go back in there. Let me see what they look like. Okay, so I reduced that. Let me see what it looks like. Nope, I'm not going to use that. Okay, I think I kind of like this one. I'm going to use this one. All right, so I'm going to select this one and hit on apply, hit on OK, hit on done, hit on apply, OK in there. Let's get into our modify, find our paint icon, and let's just set for our material in there, plaster 01. So with our plaster 01, we are going to paint the outside part of our building. Let's just paint this. Let's paint this side as well. It doesn't matter. Let me just hit on the tab key to paint the front right there. You can see I want to just paint only that front right there. Let me just, and let me also paint the top as well. And then I'm going to hit on done, and let me head straight into Enscape. See what we have in there. Alright, so we have that graffiato finish in there. I don't know if you can see it, but I can really feel that in there. So we have that graffiato finish also in there as well. It's kind of nice. It's nice. We are done. Alright, so we are going to be ending here in this video, in this section. So we've dealt with our exterior part, also dealt with the material for the staircase area, and we've also dealt with the exterior walls as well. So in our next part, we are going to be dealing with the interior part and also add some lighting. Let's see if we could add some lighting in our next video. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. It's going to help me out a lot. I'll be bringing out more videos like this. I love you guys. Catch you guys in the next video. I'm still working real hard on a Saturday. A future I don't see from a mile away.